Figure it's always best to start with a video that shows a little bit about what our Air Force is about and some of the challenges we have in our future. And that's what this Fusion event's all about, trying to make sure that we are set up for the ability to go out and in all domains, multi-domains, command and control, weapons effects like that on a battlefield. But I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of people that actually look at a video like that and say, that's what our Air Force is, that's what our Navy air power is, that's the things that we do. But we're so much more than that. In a couple months, we'll be on our 68th year of Operation Christmas Drop in the Pacific. We, for nearly 50 years now, have been flying C-17s and ski-equipped C-130s out onto the Antarctic on ice and snowfield runways supporting the National Science Foundation. And then if you're a developing nation, so many of their vision or their understanding of air power is our gray fleet, the T-tails out there with American flag on the back that are delivering needed supplies, taking off every 3 minutes or landing, that type of thing, bringing in what they need and bringing stability to them. And that's really what this MDC-2 is all about. It's reaching across into all the different areas of where we're headed as an Air Force and where we are today. Have you heard some of the people talk? We're not in the best place. We're in a great place. We are the world's greatest Air Force. We have some great allies and partners that are right there with us. That's what makes us better than most of our peer competitors that we'll be looking at in the future is our allies and partners and our ability to work with that. And when I say partners, I include industry with it. But today I'm going to walk you through a short vignette. I want to talk to you a little bit about a different vision of the Air Force of the future from a typical maintainer's perspective. And I'll use that to then tie back into where MDC can go in the future. So yeah, imagine a young airman coming to work. She puts on her VR goggles to get her assignments for the day and looks at the tasks that she's got and then flips through the TOs in those same goggles. Said, okay, here's the first thing I have to do. I have to change a part on a C-17 that's about to land on the airfield in 10 or 15 minutes. The part hasn't failed yet, but the system has said it's going to fail. So her job is to go out and replace that part. So she flips through it, understands all the parts of it, and then puts her hands forward, enables the virtual reality tools, and works through. And actually, in 5 minutes, does all the actions required to change that part as if she were on the airplane. Sets those down, she's good to go. Then she does her email, does her text messages, and it's time. She looks at her watch, yep, airplane should have landed. She starts walking out to the flight line. Normally, she'd walk over to the desk and grab a toolbox about this size. But today, she doesn't have to. This is the Air Force of the future that's delivering today. She walks past, sees a supervisor there. He's issuing out other tasks to everybody out. And by the way, I'm going to keep walking to make it hard on Red over here. He's the boom operator. 450 pounds of weight to balance that. He gets a workout every time I move. So thanks, Rhett. Have a good day. She's not taking that toolbox out anymore because as she walks out to the airplane, she goes through the entry control point and sees the airplane parked. The air crew is already unloading things. They may or may not know that a part's about to be changed in the airplane, but the super truck's driving away. It's left the toolbox she needs that has just the exact tools required for the job she's about to do. So she goes out and does that job, which is great because as she walks around under the wing and into the wheel well, the part is waiting there for her. She didn't have to go to a different airplane, pull the part off, one maintenance action, go put it on the broke airplane, a second maintenance action, and then when the part supply comes in, go fix the first airplane she took it from. 3 to fix 1. Nope, today the part's there, the tools are there, she does the job. By the way, she looks at her wristwatch and goes through the TOs again because that's required as part of the policy we have to do. That is, they're working on it, the TOs are available, and she verifies that, and she said she's good. Finishes the maintenance action, changes the part, and realizes, wow, I had 2.5 hours to do this, but it's done in an hour. Getting ready to sign off the forms, and they're already done it because the virtual reality recognized the hand movements that she did and understands she has gone through all the steps, the part is complete. So she starts walking over to talk to the air crew to let them know, hey, the airplane's good to go. Of course, they may not have known it was going to break. Kind of unusual. Most of the time, it starts with that form right up, airplane broke. We're in Timbuktu. How do we get the part here? Yet this is a scheduled maintenance event because we had the analysis and the databases available to tell us you ought to change it today. On the way over, though, the loadmaster looks at his watch, gives her a thumbs up. Hey, TO says we're good, parts are signed off, and the form is good, so we're back off the dash that we were on, and we're ready to fly again. She's a little disappointed. She actually wanted to get a tour of a C-17. She hasn't seen an airplane like this, even though she is an unsupervised maintenance technician working on that airplane. That's pretty cool for the Air Force of the future, right? Of course, in the hour and a half, The aircrew says, hey, why don't you come on over? You fixed the airplane we didn't know was going to break. Why don't you walk through the cockpit and we'll talk you through it. So she gets that ability to go out and climb into some of those cool airplanes that I haven't flown since 2012. Thank you. Okay, to enable that, that's a simple piece to talk through where we could be going in the future. But really, that's hard to do. We have to go get so many databases and understand what's going on. We have all of that data. They're just in different stovepipes. If you're a C-17, you've got that at McGuire or McCord or wherever you happen to be flying those from, but you're not at an outbase. And then how do you have that ability to reach out and say, hey, we've got an airplane that's going to land, and that part is giving us indications it's getting ready to fail? Well, that means the airplane has to be communicating, not just the aircrew. So as you get that, okay, that's fine, but we're going to be at an outbase. We don't have C-17s at that base, yet the part arrives, it gets there with the tools that are needed to do the mission, and the trained technician. Well, today's maintenance people, they are trained on one airplane for a specific set of tasks. They might be an engine troop, they might be avionics, they might be hydraulics. The maintainer of the future quite possibly is just going to be an expert maintenance person that can work on any airplane, any part, because the TOs are available, the training is right there, and we can do that on a day-to-day basis. We also save 3 times the amount of work when we cut our cans in half. I don't have to go cannibalize a good airplane or a bad airplane to go put a part on a different one. There's so much that we can do with this if we get the data right, we share all that information, and we bring it across, and then we have the algorithms to predict that failure. We're working that in some. The KC-135 now and a few of the other platforms, just doing some tests with that. All of that started right here with AFWERX, so we'll continue to move out in that direction. All right, our allies and partners. As we said, we fly a lot of the same things, but some of our strengths are flying different things, whether it's a wedge tail, whether it's a different fighter. When you're flying, things that scare us in the Pentagon when we talk about it is the cyber effects. I fly an F-16, nicknamed the Viper, but we also call it the electric jet. It is a giant receiver, maybe not as good as the F-35 from a receiver perspective, but we haven't looked at it from a cyber perspective. If it's a receiver, we can input things into it. The last thing I want to do is be flying in that cockpit and have something happen to my airplane that I didn't command it to do. So the cyber effects, the parts we're talking about here are real, and we have to get after that. But as we said, innovation's hard. The last thing Congress wants to hear from me, the Air Force A8, is, hey, Congress, I got $1 billion set aside, and I'm not telling you what I'm spending it on. I'm going to spend it on something that someone else is going to teach me about here in 6 months. That doesn't work well with Congress, and they're my board of directors, by the way. Our best supporters, they delivered an on-time budget last year. We expect they're going to have an on-time budget and still increasing, so this is actually a good time for us from that. As we move forward, though, we've got work to do. They're approving FY20. I fly home here in a couple hours because tomorrow I deliver our FY21 POM to the chief. It'll be our 3rd or 4th time with him going back and forth and a secretary to say, here's what we think we're going to be doing. That's FY21. We're July 19, right? I checked my watch this morning when I got up. So I have to work 5 years in advance with about a 2-year pad in front of there, and the team's been working on it. So that's one of the things that makes innovation hard. There's no dollar out there in the next 5 years that aren't spent. And if it's not a stable budget, if it's going up and down, I have to get into it and make those changes. So that's one of the reasons that you see us come out and say, yeah, this is tough, but we recognize where the strengths are. Fan Man was up here yesterday, and if you're up here today and somebody asked him, how do you get his call sign? You know, we're not very creative. General Fantini, Fan Man. We would have named him Caveman, but that was already taken. So I talk about that because we're kind of old. We're set in our ways. Most of the general officers have been at this for 20 plus years, and it's a pattern that we work through very diligently to get the task done. The planner and programmer, we've got a 3 that's in charge of operations. He doesn't care what it costs, he just has to go out and get today's mission done. The 2 is out there support within ISR, make sure we understand what the enemy is doing, working through each one of these. So we are kind of in our own stovepipe, and each one of us views MDC2 a little differently. We view cyber a little differently, certainly different than our CN sitting up front and our approach to it. But we have a commitment. We just can't keep buying cool airplanes and cool satellites and missiles that sit in the ground that hopefully never get used and not be able to communicate to them, not be able to share data, not be able to connect. But with that also comes the requirement to protect. We have to be able to defend off and maintain control of the things that we're doing. So events like this are awesome. First off, how about a round of applause for AFWERX for setting up the Fusion event that we've got here today. And then second, AFWERX, the team that does this, and the industry partners, those that pitched in. I learn a lot when I come out to these events, and one of the benefits I've had is I've got to make a few of them, and that's good. I learned yesterday that AI can tell me I'm sitting in a chair. Okay, we had to teach it to tell it that, and to be honest, I don't need to know that. As I sit here, I'm using my own AI to know that I'm sitting in a chair. My antiquated information, my knees aren't sore, but my back is, therefore I'm sitting. I got that, all right? But what I need from you, I don't necessarily understand. Sometimes you're gonna come in, hey, we gotta teach this system how to use this algorithm, and we're gonna have to run it through a whole bunch of data sets so it understands the difference between a cat and a dog. I don't care what a cat and a dog is on the battlefield until you explain it to me, but that's how you start getting visual recognition of video screens, and that's important because then instead of having 3 airmen watching the screen that's operating at Creech, and then 3 more airmen watching the same screen at a different DCGS around the world that's doing the intel side of that house, and then 2 or 3 airmen that are supervising them, okay, now I care what a dog and a cat is, but I don't know that. I'm that caveman, which is why Famman didn't get the name. It's hard. I won't say the Pentagon is scared of anything. You saw the video. We're pretty good at what we do, but we do have to listen to you. We do have to participate, and that's why this is a Fusion event. It's less of a conference of just kind of talking mental about, but more of teaching, selling back and forth information, pushing information back and forth, and sharing with each other. Much like we have to share with cyber, we also have to do that with ideas. Our commitment to you is we're going to keep this up. Again, thank AFWERX for the work they did getting this set up. But last year, or the last event we did, Fusion event, we had 500 people. And this year, we expected to be about 600, and there's 1,100 of us here. So we had to make some last minute changes. And I'll be honest, hopefully you didn't notice this, but that didn't all go well. We made some errors in setting some things up. We made some decisions that probably don't fit the policies that I'm held to in the Pentagon and such. So I got some work to do. We're going to correct some of those things for the next time we do this. And I probably got, well, let me ask it this way. Are any lawyers in the room? Hands up real quick. Okay. There's a few hands going up. I had counsel. It was good counsel. It recommended I cancel the event based on some of the problems we had coming up. But that's not where we're at. We made mistakes. We'll fix those. We'll get right to it in the future. The mistakes are made for the right reasons, and we'll get after. You'll notice some slightly different changes next time. But the exchange of information, the ability for us to change the way we go out and do this, that's what's really important to us, and that's why we continued on with the event. I'll be honest, I've learned more than just how to sit in a chair. I've learned about the airmen that I'm working with, the industry partners that are out here participating with us, pitching in and helping with that. But a few of you are pretty good avid readers of Air Force history and announcements, things that are coming out. And probably a month ago, some of you may have read that I get the opportunity to retire here in 2 months. So life's good for me. Kind of like the birds and the bees and your parent, you're going to always have to talk to your kids about that sometime. The chief will have that talk with every general officer somewhere in their career. And he had that talk with me about 6 months ago. He says, JD, I want you to deliver one more POM, and then we're going to replace you. We're going to put somebody in that'll follow in your footsteps. And that kind of took me back. I was smiling. I'm happy. I'm getting a chance to go home and retire and stop waking up at 3:59 because I know my alarm's going to go off at 4 o'clock and realize, why am I awake before my alarm goes off at 4 o'clock? It's kind of the pattern we've gotten into. So my wife and I are celebrating. We're going to go home and take some time off. And the next time I show up at a AFWERX or Fusion event, I'll probably be sitting in the crowd in a coat and tie, and we'll go from there. Realize, though, as a GO, I have to have a cooling off period. That means I can't come participate and represent back to the Air Force. So there will be some delay in that. But what I'm asking each one of you, we are on a tipping point, and I don't want to use that as a soundbite getting to something else. To go from 500 to 600 to 1,100 in a single event, we're reaching out to people. We're listening. We took some of last event's winners and are now producing and putting those things back into use in our Air Force, and not in that 12-year time frame that I talked about through our normal requirements and acquisition process, but we're doing it in months and a couple of years for some of these, and that's new for us, and that is hard in the Pentagon. When I go out and tell people that, hey, we're going to put a couple $100 million a year into Airmen being innovative, and we're going to push it out to the wings, and we're not going to care what they do. We'll care, but we're not going to tell them, you will spend the money here. We'll just be innovative with the money you have, and then report back to us. We get some of those reports back in what we call Freestyle Friday, and enjoyable in that I get the opportunity to give and take with airmen, but I don't want that to stop. I probably have one more of those left in me, but then my replacement will pick up. He'll hit the ground running from that perspective, and he will actually take this further from where we're going. Now, not that it needs leadership at our level, but it certainly, just like the vice chief is really good at, we need to have the sponsorship. Because if we're not careful, that idea of one GS-14 spending a month TDY at a location to see what AFWERX could be like when we're visiting SOFWERX. We didn't invent it. We came out and studied some of the things that were going on and looked at those, and AFWERX kind of started with 3 captains, and they were coming out of SOS, not tied to this at all, and what was behind them was just powerful. We filled in with a couple lieutenant colonels, which worked really well from the perspective of where we're going, and the team kind of gelled, and I don't think AFWERX is going to stop. I am very confident that it will continue on. Where it lives may change, whether it's in the 5 or the 8. Pretty confident it'll stay in the 8, and I think it will move out. But those of you sitting here in the room today or listening in on a VTC, you're a big part of this. You can be the ones that continue to drive. Yesterday, one of the speakers talked about, hey, is this a moonshot or not? You know, is it a big thing? In the Air Force, our slogan isn't aim low, it's aim high. Nah, your response shouldn't be, it's not a moonshot. I'm looking at Mars. All right? What I want out of each one of you is to stay on the team with us. Continue to input. Be part of that. If you're part of a wing that's a spark cell that's here being innovative, continue that, because the things that you do, she's telling me I got 5 minutes. My watch says I got as much time as I want. What I would ask the wing spark cells to do out there is to continue to be innovative. We won't accept every idea, and not all ideas will be able to scale, but there will be some ideas that are just gold nuggets, and we'll run with those, and it'll make life easier for anybody that's out there. So please continue to do that. Do the support that you have. If you're one of the winners that comes out for what Mark was talking about for the announcement and the selection for the competition that's going on here, that's awesome. Take some coaching, work with the team, continue to do what it is that you do, and set your goals high. Make sure that you're aiming for what the mark that you're looking for, and we'll work with you on that. If you're one of the ones that's not selected, don't worry about that. Come back. You'll be a little more mature next time. We'll be a little more mature, and maybe it just didn't lash up, or maybe we didn't have the right people who would understand what it was you're bringing. There'll be something different, so just keep coming back and working at it. Talk to some of the team out here that I mentor and mentor me. We have what we call command lists. So as you move forward, you get put on a command list if you're doing well, and it's an honor to be on that list, much like an opportunity to be there at the beginning when AFWERX started. But we put 3 names on the list for every 2 commands that are out there. That means people are going to be left on the list. There will be people here in this room that don't get selected later today, but just be persistent. Continue to work at what you do, keep the passion in you, and that'll be a big part of what you do, being innovative in the future. So I'd ask that you do that, and I won't say that'd be my legacy. I really think the legacy is the airmen that I got to know and those that got to know me, and that's important. So to that team, thanks. Thanks for being a part of what we're doing. To you in industry, please keep on doing what you do and bring it to us. Whether you're an individual startup, you're a small company, you're a large company, and you want to grow, you want to change, you want to be one of the others instead, all of that's good. We'll continue to work with you. We're changing, but it takes time. Our culture changes over time. When I entered the Air Force before 2012, I thought I was going to be a pilot so I could go fly commercial airlines. Turns out I still fly commercial airlines instead of my own airplane, but I'm in the back seat of American or United or Delta or whomever, not in the front seat. Because at about the time of 6 or 7 years, I changed. It wasn't a big click of, hey, this is fun, this is cool. I was flying F-16s, that is cool. There's a lot of things that we do that are great. And to be honest, some of today's operators are working on a keyboard and having some of the great effects. The airmen that are doing that will change also. They'll look at what you're doing as your leadership, and over time, our culture will change. I went from getting out at the end of my pilot training commitment of 6, 7 years, let me go fly commercial, make the big bucks, to, wow, I like the people I'm working with, so I stayed. Next thing, I tripped over 20 years, and I kind of, I'm still here. I'm making an impact. I like what I'm doing. Well, I didn't think it'd be 14 years after that point, but here I am. I still like what I'm doing. So enjoying that. I am looking forward to retirement, but each one of you is a part of that team, and I hope that you continue, and give me about a year, and I'll start showing up events like this when I can, and when the lawyers tell me that I'm allowed to come back. So that part's good. Fusion events will continue, AFWERX will continue, but really it's about the communication and sharing. So while you're going through the different booths, looking at each one of the displays over here, take the time to get to know the people, exchange cards, and then continue to work and network. You know, do the exchange of however you do that, whether it's email or text messages, or if you're on Twitter, or regardless of how your social media approach is, continue to share that information, because at times you're competitors and competing. Other times you need each other to work together, because remember that vignette I talked about with that crew chief that was able to go out and do a work on an airplane she'd never been on before? That's our future. We need to bring that sooner rather than later. So we've got the databases. They're not connected. We're working on getting the pipes so that the highway is out there and we can bring all these cool things into being and make sure that we're doing what we need to do. But it's about that ability to command and control this, and that's wrapping up with the NBC2 piece. For about 15 to 20 years, earlier than that, if you think about to 1991, we've been fighting an adversary that wasn't that big a deal. They were not really a threat to us as a country and our allies and our partners that are out there. Today's threats are different. The countries that are now trying to change the world order have the ability to threaten us here in the homeland. So our requirements, the things that we're doing have to change. I can't change that with the acquisition and the requirements of the past. I have to change that with you, the people that are sitting out here in the audience, to get us to that new future sooner. So everybody, thanks for your time. Thanks for being out. I've got about 5 minutes. Well, she doesn't say so, but I got about 5 minutes. I'll be standing around up here. If you have any questions, please come on up to ask. But thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your day.